What's poppin', boys and girls? Saberwolf94, and it's deck profile time. I haven't done this in a while, so we're gonna cover Dusknoir today. Right. So this is a really cool Stage 2 Pokemon that came in Burning Shadows. I really like Dusknoir, so I was happy to see another Dusknoir card, and a good one too. I talked about this guy with Kingdra as well, and I've used Kingdra, as you guys have seen, and I actually have used this more, but I wanted to kind of perfect it, have a good list ready to show, and play a lot of games to see what's up. So Kingdra, it's easy. You get him out. He functions on one energy. This guy is different. He needs more shit to work, so we're gonna do shit differently. He can't necessarily work on his own. I mean, you could, but we're going to try some combo shit here. So let's look at the card first a little bit. So Dusknoir, Stage 2 Pokemon, 150 HP. That's not bad. I would have liked if it was 160 or something because, let's be honest, 150, it's kind of like the standard these days, but it's not really hard for other GX Pokemon and other strong attackers to knock this thing out in one hit. So even though it's a little better than Kingdra, it's still kind of on the low side. Not on the low side, just still kind of needs a little more to be respectable. But 150 HP is still very good. Probably going to do the job. It's got a 3 retreat cost, and that's kind of terrible, especially when we don't have, well, I guess this isn't dark, so we couldn't use like a Darkrai, but I believe there was a way like with psychic Pokemon to have free retreat. I don't know, but oh, yeah, I think it was the mind energy or what have you, but that wasn't good. So yeah, maybe I'm thinking shit. But 3 retreat, we do have the Stadium of the Moon, the Altar of the Moon, and that can kind of help a little bit, but it's still not gonna be perfect. But that's what he has. It's got a handy fighting resistance as always, and weakness to dark, standard stuff. So the trick this Pokemon can do is Dark Invitation. So once during your turn, you could have your opponent reveal their hand, and if you find a basic Pokemon, you can put it onto the bench and put 3 damage counters on that Pokemon. Now this is good for a number of reasons. Number one is you force them to put something on the bench that maybe they don't want to put, and it also gets hurt. And the best play to do this, that this guy can do with this ability, my favorite at least, is putting something like Tapu Lele. When you put something like that, or like a Shaman or what have you, with this effect, they don't get their ability. So you kind of just waste their bench. I mean, Tapu Lele is still good. It can still attack and do shit, but they kind of lose the effect with that and get on the bench too. And it's also softened up for this guy. Uh, Probably you want to soften up something that you wouldn't be able to get a one-hit knockout with Mind Jack, but just anything you do, anything you put with Dark Invitation is going to get hurt, and that's pretty cool. And his attack, Mind Jack, is also very good. Uh, it does 3 for 30, but you do 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So basically what this means, if your opponent has a full bench, this attack is going to do 180 damage for 3. That's pretty good. Now, the 180 like damage isn't how it was like in the X and Y era or the black and white era. We're in the Sun and Moon era right now, and Pokemon usually have like 200 HP, 210 HP with Golisopod, and even more with the Stage 2 GXs. And there's a lot of basic GX Pokemon that have 190. So, you kind of fall a little bit short. Now, the good news is we can use something like Choice Band, and this attack can do 210 if they have a full bench, and that makes it a little better. Now, you need a Psychic Energy, and with a double colorless, it's going to be like a 2 attachment attack, so it can be a little fast, but it's not going to be enough, and you're not always going to have DCE. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a partner with this guy. And the partner is going to be Rayquaza. The Rayquaza from Guardians Rising. So this card hasn't really seen much play, hasn't really done much, but I think it's kind of good. Of course, it could have been better if it was designed slightly different, but it still can do some cool shit and has advantages the way it is designed as well. So this is a 120 HP Pokemon, basic Pokemon, so you know it's good enough. Only one retreat cost, that's good. A handy fighting resistance as well. So this deck is gonna do well against fighting shit. It resists them at least. And a weakness to lightning. Uh, the attack you want to use with this guy and why we use this guy is for Turbo Storm. So for 2 colorless energy or 1 DCE, you do 30, but you can attach 2 basic energy cards from your disc pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So this is basically the whole Eviltal, Landoras from Furious Fist, if you remember that guy back then, Registeel right now, I mean Raikou from Shining Legends. It's the whole, attack, grab an energy from the discard pile, attach it kind of shit. You do some solid damage and you get some energy acceleration slowly but surely. And this is always a good attack. Now, this guy requires 2 to do this, and it still does 30, but you get to grab 2 energies instead. And, that can be pretty good. The other benefit this guy has is that even though it requires 2 energy, if you put a DCE on, then it's like he does this with 1 energy, and we get to grab 2 energies. I've used this card with Machamp GX, with Lycanroc GX even, and of course with Dusknoir here. And it's pretty interesting, it can do some shit. It's at least a way to like power these attackers that are kind of slow. And from my experience, I really feel like Dusknoir GX, the Dusknoir, not Dusknoir GX, is probably the best partner. Uh, at least from the decks that I've toyed around with. So we're going to use this card. We're going to run a specific engine and build our deck in a specific way to take advantage of Turbo Storm. You guys will see pretty soon. Dragon Claw might not look like a much, but because we usually put a DC on this guy, you put another like Psychic Energy. It's a solid like 3 for 80 attack, not bad. Uh, we do use this sometimes, but you're mainly going to use this for Turbo Storm. So 3 of this guy, you want to open with him, you want to put a DCE on, and start grabbing energies from the discard pile, and powering up your Dusknoirs while you're getting them ready and shit. So there's not really a lot of other Pokemon besides my standard guys. Uh, I suppose I need to talk about the line 2 of Dusknoir. It's not really that special. Duskull, 60 HP basic Pokemon. His Dark Guidance attack, you might use it. You put a basic Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench. So it's recovery to the bench. It would have been better if it went to the hand maybe, so maybe you can grab a Layla with this. But honestly, if you're going to have to attack with Duskull, you might not be in a good position. And I run a 1 stage, 1 Pokemon, Dusclops. Maybe you can do 2, but I decided to go with 1 because of space and shit. It should do the job. He's not really a great attacker either. Not that you want to attack with your small guys, but in the off chance he's not that good, you can put what damage counter on each Pokemon with Night Roam, but it puts 1 on all of your guys too, and that's really shit. So that's the like other guys, but of course you mainly want to use Dusknoir. Now I only have 3 here because I don't have a 4th one, but if you have a 4th one, it's okay to play 4, honestly. And the other like psychic Pokemon, I guess, is Wobbuffet. So this Pokemon is from Phantom Forces, but it got reprinted in Generations, I believe. Oh no, it's not Generations. It might be Generations, or it might be like another set. I'm not really sure. I don't remember, but it has definitely come out in something, because Phantom Forces has rotated out, obviously. But this is a very good Pokemon, a very annoying Pokemon. People have forgotten about this card. I think it's still pretty good. What you could do actually is you could just run a straight Wobbuffet Dusknoir deck and maybe like if you open with this guy, you kind of slow your opponent down. They can't use abilities and shit, so maybe they can't use Zoroark GX and Octilleries. They'll still be able to use Tapu Lele, but hopefully you kind of annoy them and set up the Dusknoir slowly that way. I haven't tried the deck out myself, but it's another alternative, I suppose. You can do many decks with this guy. I've made many standard decks with this guy too, this format. But in this case, we're just going to use one copy of him, kind of like a backup attacker or another good guy to open with to kind of slow our opponent down while, it doesn't really affect us. And if, your opponent is hurt from Rayquaza, doing turbocharge a couple of times, or, you know, maybe Turbo Storm, not turbocharge, or Dusknoir not really finishing the job but doing high damage, with Psychic Assault, you're likely going to knock them out. It's going to do a lot of damage to hurt guys. So it's a good little basic Pokemon. If you have other techs like maybe Lugia from Shining Legends or other Pokemon, you can try them, but I decided to put this guy in right now. The other guys are pretty standard. We have our Tapu Lele GX, very, very good, and Mime. Tapu Lele can also attack, of course, in this deck. We can power it up too with Rayquaza if we want to, and we can actually use the Tapu Cure GX as well, the GX attack, for once. It's actually the only GX Pokemon that can do the GX concept. So that's the Pokemon. So how are we gonna utilize the Rayquaza here? We're gonna run an engine similar to what I run in stuff like Ray Eels, your Yu-Gi-Oh shit, where you use your Professor's Letter, you grab a bunch of energies, thin the deck, and then you use shit like computer search. Well, not computer search, we don't have it. Ultra Ball, and if you have computer search and expanded or some shit, and we ditch the energies, and we grab our Pokemon, fill our bench, and Rayquaza is ready to go. Just needs a DCE, and we can instantly grab energies and accelerate shit. This can be very good if you open the right hands with this deck. It can be a lot faster, take your opponents by surprise. They really don't expect this deck to be fast and shit, and you can really get set up much quicker than you think once you get going. So this is like the engine we're kind of going to use. Of course, Sycamore helps as well. I usually run 3 of this guy in decks, 3 Sycamore, 3 Juniper, what have you. But in this case, we don't really mind ditching a lot of shit. We want to get our Dusknoir as soon as possible, start doing 180 damage really quickly, and fuck motherfuckers up like that. So for Sycamore as well, I'm going to talk about the supporters too, but I just thought I'd mention it because this is also another like discard outlet. There's nothing really else here besides these cards, but they'll do the job, basically. So for other search cards and shit, we got the one nest ball. We can grab anything in this deck pretty much besides the Dusknoirs and Dusclops. Pretty good. And my other trainers are kind of standard. You got to have the 4 rare candy to get your guy out, the 2 field blower to fuck with Garbodor when they put the tools, fuck with your abilities. It's not like we're too heavy on abilities in this deck, but we do want to use a Dark Invitation and get the plus. The damage is important, but the bench, your opponent having a big bench is even more important, so you can do like a lot of damage. You want to do at least 150 and 180, of course, with this guy. Otherwise, anything less than that, and he's going to be kind of weak. Okay, so that's that. Field blower, tool removal, standard. You guys know I run it. You got the 1 switch and the 1 floatstone. I run these cards too. And speaking of retreating and shit, we got Ultra of the Moon, like I've said. This is a good little stadium to have here. Anything that has Psychic or Darkness energy is 2 less. This works with even Rayquaza and just about everybody. Works with Wobbuffet too, that's great. It's not going to work perfectly with Dusknoir, like I've said. This guy has fucking 3, so he's going to have to ditch 1 anyway, but it can still do shit. Right. So these are the guys. As you guys see, I just thought about this. I don't run heavy ball. You could if you want to, but because we run a big ultra ball line, I felt it wasn't necessary. There's not a lot of nest balls, as you can see either. So yeah, for recovery to the hand and deck, we got Stretcher 2. I don't feel it's necessary to run Super Rod in this deck. Stretcher is the better option. If you want to run like a Stretcher and a Super Rod, I would actually suggest you run 2 Stretchers instead, but that's just me. And for our offensive tools, let's say we got a Choice Band. I will probably do 2 of this, to be honest, because it really helps Dusknoir out getting those, knockouts. If you get lucky with fucking rotation and this, and they have a full bench, you could even knock out 240 stage GX Pokemon too, and all sorts of shit. So I would run more, but I only have 1 of this card, so yeah, just I think it's fair to mention it. 1 is good enough. I have 2 Fury Belts here because this might be a little better on the Rayquaza. Makes it last a little longer, but yeah, it doesn't work with anybody else. You can use this with Wobbuffet too. It's very good. Wobbuffet, Lele, Rayquaza. But yeah, maybe if I had more choice bands, I would run like 2 choice bands, maybe 1 Fury Belt. Yep. And now that I think of this, another thing you can do with Fury Belt and Wobbuffet, maybe if you're going to use Wobbuffet Dusknoir deck and not really run Rayquaza, there's Wobbuffet Break. I didn't know that card existed, and that can help this guy a lot. So maybe if I had, those cards, I would make different decks and do some other shit. But you gotta have the cards. You gotta have everything, like Puka. Okay. So the supporter line, I've already talked about the Sycamores. You run 4 in this case, when I usually just run 3. We run N, 3N, pretty good. I can't wait for Cynthia. We're gonna have to change shit up when that comes out. And you got Bridget. This is important for the combo. The first turn, Bridget, you guys know. Lily too. Lily's perfect as well first turn. Might even be better than Bridget. This is another card that really helps this deck to be super fast. Since we run all these Ultra Balls and, ditching shit and what have you, it can be great. 2 Skyla. 2 Skyla is very important in these stage decks with rare candies and shit. Uh, we have a lot of good shit we want to get. Ultra Ball, Professor's Letter, depending on the situation. Maybe one of our tools. Skyla is very good. And I don't usually run this guy, but in this deck, I guess we kind of can. Guzma, this is pretty good because Dusknoir really appreciates hitting the thing it wants to hit. So if I can use this and get a knockout, it's pretty good. The switching effect for me can also be kind of handy. I would like just a straight Lysander, to be honest, but the whole war point shit can work in your favor too. Yep, yep. So that's basically the deck. I guess the last thing to talk about are the energies. We run 4 DCEs, is very important in this deck. You want to get this hopefully early, put it to Rayquaza, and start grabbing energies. Or, maybe the situation is that you just attach a Psychic Energy to Dusknoir, the next turn you put a DC and you're ready to go. You could do this way as well. And the rest is Psychic Energies, so that will be 9. Yeah. So that's the deck, guys. It's pretty simple. It's pretty fun. I really wish stage Pokemon like these, like Dusknoir and Kingdra, were better. I mean, it's great that, GX Pokemon are stage Pokemon as well, and we can use those. Just good old Pokemon shit. But I wish some of these cards were pretty good too. I hear Empoleon from like the Ultra Prism is probably going to be good. The metal one. Haven't talked about some of that shit, but I guess I digress. But this is the deck, guys. I'm going to post some games with it, of course. It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. Uh, it might even be better than Kingdra. It has more potential than Kingdra if you get going, I feel like. I did some pretty good shit with this. I think, yeah, I think I beat a Gardevoir GX, I believe, or I came close. Usually I fuck up as well. I misplay, so that's why I lose. But I've done pretty good with it, I feel like, for it being a non-serious meta deck. So that's the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you guys subscribe. Hope you guys leave a like. Share this with your friends. If they want to learn some cool shit, cool decks, I got your back. And I'm going to post games like I've said. This has been SaberWolf94. What's up?